I was wiping down the last workbench when I heard the door chime. It was close to 8. Shop was locked up for the night. Lights dimmed, just me and the hum of the soda machine in the break room. Then I saw her, Julie, standing there with a takeout bag in one hand and her car keys in the other. She didn't even glance around, just said, "Figured you hadn't eaten." I blinked. "You're here." "Yeah," she said, setting the bag on the break room table. "Food's getting cold." We hadn't eaten together in months. She used to come by all the time, bring dinner, talk about her day. Lately it was just texts, short, clipped, mostly about bills or parts orders. So, yeah, I was surprised. But I didn't ask questions. I was hungry, and I missed sitting across from her, even if it felt like eating with a stranger. Quick note. Before we start, how's your day going, and where are you joining from? We sat in silence for a while, picking through chicken and mashed potatoes from that diner on Ashland. She didn't look up much, barely touched her food. I asked how her day was. She said, "Fine." That was it. After we finished, I tossed the empty containers and said, "It's a nice night. Want to sit outside for a bit, like we used to?" She didn't even pretend to think about it. "Did you ever file those invoice receipts from last week?" Her tone snapped like a rubber band, cold, sharp. I paused. "No, I was tied up with that radiator emergency. Mr. Harlan's truck took longer than I thought." She folded her arms and didn't bother hiding the sigh. "You said you'd get it done. I'm not gonna keep reminding you. I didn't forget. Maybe you should sleep in the back office tonight if you can't follow simple directions." That landed hard. She said it like it was a calendar reminder, like telling someone to put gas in the car. I looked at her, really looked. Her jaw was tight, eyes flat, not angry, just done with me. I nodded once. "I think I will." She didn't flinch. Didn't ask me to stay, just turned and started checking her phone. I grabbed the blanket from the locker, walked straight into the back office and shut the door. The second that door shut behind me, it was like the noise of the whole place dropped out. No tools clinking, no cars pulling in, no voices. Just the soft buzz of the vending machine outside the office and the cheap old HVAC unit rattling in the wall. I pulled the blanket over myself on that lumpy couch and stared up at the ceiling tiles. They had water stains in the corners, probably from that busted AC last summer. Funny how I never noticed them before. I couldn't sleep, not even close. My eyes were burning, but my mind was wired. That moment, her voice, the way she said it, like I was just another employee who didn't follow through, it kept looping. But more than that, it felt like something cracked open. I wasn't even mad, not really. I just started thinking, how the hell did we get here? When we first took over this place from her dad, it was ours. We worked side by side. I'd handle the floor, she'd do the books, and every decision, every damn choice, was talked through. She'd ask what I thought, I'd ask her. It wasn't perfect, but it was equal. Somewhere along the way, that stopped. It didn't happen overnight. It was small things. At first, just her not loving how I wrote estimates. Then it was how I answered the phone, how I organized the parts bins. Preferences became critiques. Critiques became just how we do things now. I adjusted every time. Told myself it was no big deal. Pick your battles. Keep the peace. I stopped eating lunch during the rush hours because she thought it looked unprofessional. I started rechecking every voicemail before calling a customer back, just in case I missed something she'd point out later. I even changed how I explained repair costs. Her way sounded cleaner. It wasn't compromise, it was slow erasure. And I let it happen. That was the part that hit me the hardest. I kept telling myself I was being a good partner, flexible, supportive. But the truth was uglier. I taught her that what I needed didn't matter, that my comfort, my way of doing things, was always up for negotiation. She stopped asking because I stopped showing up as someone who needed to be asked. Lying there, I realized I hadn't made a real choice in that relationship in over a year. I just kept adjusting. Like I was a piece of furniture being moved around. And the craziest part? I wasn't even angry about it. Not in that moment. It just felt clear. Like all the noise had been cut away, and now I could finally see the damn pattern. She gave me an order, I followed it. She said, "Sleep in the office," and I did. But I wasn't going to keep doing that. Not emotionally, not in my own head. That version of me, the one who smiled and nodded, who bit his tongue every time she made a jab dressed as feedback, he was gone. That guy who kept trying to prove he was easy to love by disappearing a little more each day, done. I didn't know what came next, but I knew what I was finished being. I sat up on the couch, grabbed the half-flat pillow, and tossed it across the room. It hit the file cabinet with a dull thud. Then I laid back down and stared at the ceiling again. The stains were still there, but they didn't bother me anymore. I woke up early the next morning, earlier than I meant to. The sun was barely coming through the cracks in the shades, and I felt good, clear, like something had clicked into place. I stood up, stretched, and walked out of the back office without a second thought. No glance at her office, no check-in, no good morning or anything. Just my boots hitting the concrete floor, the usual morning buzz of the shop settling into place. She didn't text, no call. I figured she was waiting for me to be the one to break the silence. But I didn't. By the time I got home later that afternoon, the place felt different. Same worn-out chairs, same kitchen counters. But somehow everything seemed a little quieter. The kind of quiet that settles in when both people are pretending the other hasn't changed. She was in the office when I walked in, looking like nothing was off. Same posture, same flick of the pen as she checked things off on the clipboard. She didn't even look up. I didn't stop. Didn't say anything. I just walked past her and straight to the stockroom where I'd been sleeping. The mattress was lumpy as hell, but it felt like the only place where I wasn't walking on eggshells. Over the next few days, we went through the motions, polite, distant, functional. She didn't bring up the back office comment again, and I didn't give her a reason to. But she tried other things, little digs. One afternoon, I was down on the floor, working under a truck, when I heard the familiar clink of metal. I looked up. "The inventory's a mess," she said, loud enough for me to hear from under the chassis. I didn't respond. I just went back to tightening the bolts. A few hours later, I was at the counter, running through some parts orders. She slammed a cabinet drawer, hard, on her way through the room. I glanced up, met her eyes for a second, and went back to what I was doing. She didn't like that. She started leaving little comments like, "You still haven't fixed the tool shelf," or, "I'm surprised you didn't notice the oil spill in the back." Things she knew I would normally jump on, things I used to scramble to fix before she even finished talking. But I didn't bite. I didn't even look up most of the time. I just kept working. The first time she tried to provoke me directly was when she found me taking a break in the break room, sitting with my feet up on the table, a cold soda in my hand. She stepped in and gave me one of those heavy sighs that hung in the air too long. "Really?" she asked, crossing her arms. "Taking a break when we've got work to do?" I didn't even flinch. "I'm taking a break." A break. Her voice was thin with judgment. I looked at her. "You can't put a time limit on when I rest." Her eyebrows pulled together, like she didn't know what to do with that. I felt the shift. It was obvious in her eyes, the way she stood a little straighter, the way her mouth tightened, like she wanted to say something, but couldn't quite find the words. She didn't say anything. She just walked out. The days dragged on, the tension growing like a low hum. I could tell she was getting more uncomfortable with every interaction. She was used to pushing me, testing my limits, but now, I didn't let it get to me. I wasn't being cold. I wasn't being rude. I was just silent, functional, polite, detached maybe. But she'd built this cage around me for so long, it was hard to act like anything else. But I could see it in her, the confusion, the frustration, the small cracks in her control. And for the first time in a long time, it didn't feel like I was the one losing. By day 7, the energy shifted again. She started showing up with foil-covered casserole dishes and Tupperware. First time, it was baked ziti, just sitting there on the break room counter like it belonged. No note, no explanation. Next day, she brought chicken and rice, warm and steaming. Day after that, meatloaf. Always enough for 2 plates. I didn't touch any of it, not out of spite, just didn't feel like playing along with the act. She wanted things to feel normal again. Smile and eat dinner like nothing ever cracked. Like I was just being moody and needed a little home cooking to snap out of it. But I wasn't moody. I was done. That Thursday, I got held up at Pete's, guy talk, cold beer, paper trays of greasy tacos. I hadn't told her I'd be late because I didn't think I had to. When I finally came through the shop door, it was already past 9. Fluorescents humming, tools still sitting where I left them. I headed for the break room to drop off my keys, not expecting anything. She was there, sitting at the table, 2 plates set out, candles lit, cheap tea lights, but still. She had changed clothes too, hair brushed back, makeup on. The whole thing looked staged. "You're late," she said, flat, not angry, not sad, just blank. I didn't respond, just looked at the food and then back at her. "I made dinner." I shrugged. "I already ate." She stiffened, like I slapped her across the face with a napkin. Would have been nice to know. Didn't know I needed permission. That line landed hard. Her whole face shifted. Not shocked, just rattled. Like she finally realized she didn't know who the hell she was talking to anymore. I dropped my keys on the counter and turned to head back toward the stockroom. She didn't follow. She didn't say another word. I could feel her watching me as I walked out, but I didn't look back. Later that night, I sat in the back, finishing off a soda and flipping through an old service manual I'd already read twice. Normally, she'd have come in by now, and tried to say something, asked if I needed anything, pretended it was about the books or a customer issue. But that night, nothing. No knock on the door, no text, just silence. And that silence told me more than anything else she could have said. She didn't know how to handle it. Me like this. Not yelling, not begging, not trying to fix it or fold or explain. Just existing on my own terms. That plate of food, those candles. That was her waving the white flag, but painting it red like it was still a power play. She wanted control without calling it that. But I wasn't playing her game anymore, and the fact that I didn't even need to say that out loud, that did all the talking for me. I leaned back in the old desk chair, took a long sip from the soda can, and let the silence sit heavy in the room. She didn't come in, and I didn't care. Next morning, I walked into the shop and saw it right away. Whiteboard next to the parts inventory, freshly wiped and rewritten in her tidy block letters. Order spark plugs. Call landlord fix. Invoice binder, mop bay. To update client file. Delgado, no note. No, please. No conversation. Just a list, like nothing had changed, like I still reported to her. I stood there, reading it for a second, then nodded to myself and kept walking. Didn't erase it. Didn't mark anything off. Midday, I was under the hood of a Civic when she came around the corner holding her tablet. "Did you see my list?" "I did." She paused, waiting. "And?" I wiped my hands on a rag. "What about it?" Her jaw tightened. "It's shop business. These things need to get done. I know how to run this place." She didn't answer that, just turned and walked off like she was checking something on her screen. I knew what this was. She couldn't reach me through emotion, so she was falling back on structure, routine, roles. If she couldn't tell me who to be in the relationship, she'd try to steer the business, where it had always been safe for her to be in charge without saying it out loud. That night, she was already in the break room when I came in. I smelled it before I even saw the table. My favorite, barbecue chicken, cornbread, baked beans the way her mom used to make. The old Bluetooth speaker was playing that George Strait song we used to dance to in the garage after closing. The lights were low, plates set, forks already on napkins. I didn't say anything at first, just sat down and started eating. She watched me like she was waiting for a thank you card. After a few bites, I said, "It's good." She smiled like that was supposed to mean something. "Remember that night we closed early in April? Took the old truck out to Miller's Field just to drink beer and lie on the tailgate?" I nodded. "Yeah, I remember. We were good then." I took another bite. "Yep." She kept the smile on, but it was fading at the edges. After I finished, I stood up, rinsed my plate, and set it in the sink. "Thanks for dinner." That was it. No warmth, no play along, just polite. She stayed sitting as I left the room. I could feel it. She thought bringing back the good stuff, the old stuff, would reset me. But I wasn't trying to be reminded of who we used to be. I wasn't living in that version anymore. And for the first time since this started, she didn't look angry. She looked lost. After that dinner, I stopped going straight home. Most nights I'd take the long way back. 2-lane roads past the farms, windows down, no music. Just time. Time that wasn't monitored or measured or questioned. Sometimes I'd end up at Joey's garage, sit around drinking beer while he and the guys played poker. Wasn't even about the cards. It was about not being under anyone's thumb for a few hours. One Friday evening, I grabbed my keys and started heading out. She stepped out of the office, arms crossed, eyes sharp. "Where are you going?" I looked her straight in the eye. "Out." "That's it?" "Yep." She opened her mouth like she was about to push it further, but nothing came out. I didn't give her time to recover. I was out the door before she could decide how she wanted to play it. Next morning, she tried something different. I was organizing the socket sets when I heard her behind me. "Hey, babe." I didn't flinch, didn't turn around, just said, "What do you need?" She hesitated. "Just saying hi." I nodded once. "Okay." That was it. I went back to work. The shift in her was obvious. She started dressing up again. Nice tops, subtle makeup, perfume I hadn't smelled in months. She lingered around the garage more, standing near me while I worked like she used to. "You need anything?" I asked one afternoon, without looking up from the carburetor. "No," she said. "Just watching." I didn't respond. Let the silence carry its weight. At lunch, she sat at the break room table scrolling her phone, trying to act casual. "So, I was thinking we could drive out to Lincoln this weekend. That little antique fair? You liked it last time. I already made other plans." She blinked. "Oh, what kind of plans? Does it matter?" She stared at me for a second. I could see it, her trying to wrap her head around the fact that I'd made a decision without asking her first. "No, I guess not," she said finally. I finished my coffee and stood up. "All right, I'll be in Bay too." I left her sitting there, pretending to scroll, but her thumb wasn't moving. Over the next few days, she kept trying. Small things. "Want to grab dinner later? I found that old movie we loved. I thought we could clean out the upstairs closet together this weekend." I didn't shut her down cold. I just didn't bend. "Got plans?" "I'm out tonight." "I'll eat later." I kept my tone level, never mean, just firm. And it rattled her. She was used to having control and calling it connection. Used to me adjusting, folding, staying within the script she'd written for us. Now she was standing there, holding the pen, but I wasn't in the story anymore. And the silence between us wasn't tension anymore. It was my boundary, and I wasn't moving it. I was in the back office again, boots off, flipping through a stack of old invoices I'd been meaning to shred. The hum of the shop lights outside had quieted. Most nights, she left before I did lately, but that night, I hadn't heard her car. Then, 3 soft knocks. I looked up. The door creaked open just an inch, and her voice came through. Low. "Can we talk?" I walked over and opened it partway. She stood there in a hoodie and jeans, hair pulled back, no makeup. Her posture was different, arms crossed, not defensive, protective. I stepped aside, but didn't say anything. She walked in slowly, glanced around like she hadn't seen the space in years, even though it was 20 feet from her office. She sat down in the folding chair across from the desk. "I didn't think it would go like this," she said. "I didn't expect all this distance." I leaned against the file cabinet, arms folded. She looked up at me. "What I said about the couch, that was stupid. It came out wrong." I nodded once. "It didn't come out wrong. It came out real clear." She looked away, mouth tight. "I didn't mean it like that." "It wasn't about the couch," I said, cutting her off. "It was about how you saw me. What you thought you could say. What you thought I'd just take." She didn't jump to defend herself this time. Just sat there, blinking like she was swallowing something bitter. "I was overwhelmed," she said finally. "Things with the business were piling up. I've been stretched thin and trying to keep it together." "No," I said, voice low but sharp. "Don't do that. Don't tell me this was about stress. You've been stressed before. You've been overwhelmed before. You still knew how to treat me like a partner back then." She bit her lip. "I didn't realize how much I was controlling." I didn't say anything. Let that one hang in the air. She looked around the office like she was seeing it for the first time. "I thought you were just going through something. That maybe you needed space." I stared at her. "You didn't think I needed anything. You assumed I'd bounce back. You assumed I'd fold like always." That landed. I saw it in the way her shoulders dropped. "I wasn't trying to hurt you," she whispered. "You didn't think you had to try," I said. That was the problem. Her eyes flicked to the floor. No excuses, no arguments, no deflections. For once, she just sat with it. I didn't need to press. I didn't want an apology rehearsed in therapy language. I just wanted her to sit with the truth of it, no filters. After a few minutes of silence, she stood up slowly. She looked at me like she wanted to say more, like 100 words were pressing at her lips, but she didn't speak. She just nodded once, then turned and walked out. I didn't follow, didn't close the door behind her. I just let the quiet settle again. For the next few days, she stopped trying to push. No lists on the whiteboard, no sudden meals in the break room, no backhanded comments about disorganization or missed tasks. She moved slower, quieter. I'd catch her standing in the bay doorway while I worked, arms folded, not saying anything. Just watching me like I was a question she couldn't answer anymore. Sometimes I'd leave right after closing, not even bothering to tell her where I was going. She never asked. But I could feel her eyes on me every time I walked out. She was starting to realize something. I wasn't trying to win. I wasn't trying to get even. I had just stopped needing her approval to move. One night, I was sitting out behind the shop after closing. Stars were out, not that you could see many through the haze. I had a folding chair leaned back, cold soda in hand, boots kicked up on the old cinder block pile. She came out slow, carrying 2 glasses and a bottle of wine. No makeup, no act, just her. She sat down beside me without saying anything. We stayed like that for a while, wind rustling the trees, the buzz of power lines in the dark. Then she spoke. I treated you like you'd always be there. I didn't look at her, just took a sip and waited. I didn't think about how heavy that was. How much I leaned on you, without asking if you were okay. I nodded once, still didn't speak. I just assumed, she said, voice lower now, that if I was tired, you'd pick up the slack. If I was stressed, you'd adjust. I didn't think I had to check in. I just expected it. She set her glass down on the gravel. I treated your support like it was automatic, like I was owed it. I let that sit. Then I looked at her. I'm not angry. She looked surprised. You're not? No, I'm just not the same anymore. She swallowed hard. What does that mean? It means I'm still here, but not in the same way. I don't move the way I used to. I don't twist myself to fit things that don't make sense anymore. She nodded slowly. I know, and I believed her. Not because of what she said, but because she wasn't fighting me anymore. She just sat there beside me, quiet, her shoulders finally dropping from whatever invisible weight she'd been carrying. For once, we weren't playing parts. We were just 2 people sitting outside, both a little unsure what the hell came next. She didn't say anything else that night, just sat there until the bottle was half gone, then quietly stood up and went inside. The next day was quiet too. A few words about parts shipments, a quick check on invoices, no pushing, no guilt, just work. It wasn't until the end of the night, when the garage was dark and locked, that she showed up again, this time in the doorway of the break room. I was cleaning out the old mini fridge. She stood there for a second, hands in her hoodie pocket. I want to fix this, she said. I didn't turn. I kept wiping down the inside of the fridge, slow and steady. Fixing it doesn't mean returning, I said. It means dismantling it. Piece by piece, she nodded. I know. Her voice cracked a little, but she held it together, eyes filled, not crying, just full. I'm willing to try. For real, I leaned against the counter and looked at her. Then stop trying to rebuild the version of me you were comfortable managing. That guy's gone. I see that now. You don't get to redefine respect as obedience. She nodded again, slower this time. Okay. We stood there in the quiet. She hesitated. Do you want space? I shook my head. I don't need space. I need honesty. She looked at me like she wasn't sure what to say next. I didn't fill the silence. I'd done that too many times. After a long moment, she said, I don't know how to do this perfectly. Then don't try to perfect it, I said. Just don't lie to yourself about what we were, or what we are now. She let out a breath. I thought I was keeping things steady. Turns out I was just steering everything until you disappeared. You didn't leave room for both of us. I know. This time she didn't try to argue, didn't reach for a solution. She just stood there, still, present. I nodded once and turned back to the fridge, grabbing the last soda. Want one? I asked. She shook her head. No, thanks. She stepped out of the break room and disappeared down the hall without another word. That night, I didn't go to the back office, didn't unroll the blanket or fight with the lumpy couch. I sat up in the break room with the lights off, just listening, to the creaks in the ceiling, the quiet hum of the vending machine, the way the place felt when no one was trying to control it. The quiet didn't feel heavy anymore. It just felt honest. 2 weeks after she told me to sleep in the office, the silence between us had shape. It wasn't tense anymore. It was confusing. For her. I came back late from Joey's, smelled like beer and motor oil, tired but steady. I walked through the garage door expecting darkness, maybe a half-lit office. But she was there, sitting on the workbench near the front, legs crossed, hands in her lap, staring at the floor. No phone, no food, no speech ready. Just waiting. She didn't speak right away. Let me set down my keys, take off my jacket. Then finally, soft, almost like she didn't trust her own voice, she said, "I don't know who I became." I stood across from her, arms crossed. "I do." She looked up at me slowly, and I stopped letting it define me. She nodded once, lips pressed together. "I didn't know it had gotten that bad." "It didn't get here," I said. "You pushed it here." That one hit her straight in the chest. She didn't argue, she didn't run, she just sat with it. "I want to try," she said. "Really try?" I nodded. "Then start by showing up without needing control." She blinked fast like she wanted to cry, but nothing came out. She didn't chase me with more promises. Good. I didn't need promises. I turned and walked outside. The air was cool, a little breeze cutting through the heat of the day. I grabbed the old folding chair, set it out beside the loading dock, and sat down under the night sky. Didn't check my phone, didn't wait for her to follow. I just sat there. The sky above was quiet, deep and dark, not dramatic, just still. For the first time in longer than I could remember, I didn't feel like I had to manage anything, my tone, my steps, my worth. Peace didn't mean keeping her happy. It meant I could be still without asking permission.